Vortec, whatever that means. I've been waiting until the news was over to show you what I'm up to. It's a beautiful sunny day. Oh, it is beautiful. Except for all the Fords in the yard. We'll fix that. Mercedes? Well, I was driving that thing. I drove this thing from Columbia to Charlotte, North Carolina, just over the border, to a car auction, and then I drove another 100 miles, so 100 miles, 100 miles, and another junkyard trip. Got some more junk at the junkyard, and I kept putting in a few dollars of gas. Didn't want to overfill it for whatever reason. And the gas gauge was going a quarter, an eighth, a 16th. Red light would go on. I'd fill it up. And the last time I put in $5 in gas, don't ask me why I was putting in $5 in gas, but I did. The last time I put in gas, the gas gauge just sunk to the bottom. The orange light didn't come on, and it made it. I was going 60, 65, 70. This old Mercedes. But what I'm doing here today, got some mysteries. The mystery of the alternator plug. The alternator on this Yukon, I'm going to call it a Suburban because that's what it really is. Just like a Tahoe two-door is really a Blazer. This alternator just looks nasty. Much like the gas in my gas filter. It tipped over and all the gas is gone, but look at all the crud in the bottom. I wonder if this was the original gas filter. I wonder if the gas filter has a date code on it. Package 25171792, made in USA, gas filter 652. Is that a date code there somewhere? It's got a date code stamped into it. They usually do. It says 3 there, laser etched. But the reason I changed the gas filter, it seems that people don't change their gas filters very often because you don't see it. But when did you ever see the gas filter, the tiny one they used to put into the Quadrajets or the Two Jets? The Rochester Two Jet had this little pleated gas filter, the size of a big thimble for your finger if your mother or grandmother or whomever used to sew. Had this little filter, tiny little thing, smaller than this, inside the carburetor. And they replaced it with this monster underneath, inside the frame under the driver's seat. So the flow direction is from here, inlet, which would be the back of the vehicle, to here, outlet. And I was driving this fine T-Ruck automobile, and as soon as the cruise control made it accelerate when I hit a hill, it's all up and down the hills here, no real mountains, just hills until you get to the north of Asheville and the like. It started hesitating and bucking, so I laid off of it, and it was fine for the balance of the 100 and some odd miles. There goes my toolbox full of leaves. So let's blow through it in the proper direction and see what happens. Nothing. It is blocked. I'll huff and I'll puff, and I won't blow your house down if I've got this thing. And my sternum is better because I can actually blow. It's better. What is it, 3 weeks ago that I injured myself? Boy, oh boy, you don't realize how important your health is until you don't have it. And we all have a relative or a friend or a neighbor or a sister or a brother or a mother or father that's got a health problem. You don't feel well, go see the doctor. The doctor says do this and this. If you're not quite sure, go to a different doctor, but don't just say, don't worry about it. Trust me, I speak from experience, lots of it. Anyways, off the subject of illnesses. So I went to the junkyard 4 times, 100 and change miles away, and I picked up the nicest alternator they had, and I went to put it on, and I said, uh-oh. The plug on mine plugs in this direction, and the plug on this one plugs in that way. So I said, well, no problem. I'll just go back to the junkyard, which I did for the 4th time yesterday. And I looked at every single Tahoe, Yukon XL, Suburban, every single one. Silverados, V6s, which is really the 4.3, which is a 305 missing 2 cylinders. The 2005s use a different square plug. So I looked at the 99s to 2004s, I think, and every single one had either the smaller alternator, which is the same as this, but a little smaller, or the bigger one, which has more metal here. These are distinctly different. This is a Bosch GM made in Mexico. This is a remanufactured CarQuest So I'd bought this the previous day, and I just figured it's the big one, it's going to fit. Well, physically it will fit, but the plug goes in from the top, and I didn't take the time, because I got to the junkyard at 4 and they close at 6. I didn't take the time to snip off a plug and see if it would fit. So here's the plug that was on this alternator. I always take off the wires. And look at that. It fits. So the question is, why does this alternator have the plug entering from the back? I guess it's just the style. It enters this way. Actually, it enters this way with the little tab, the locking tab up. And this one here installs this way. Is there a difference? I don't know. But I looked at, it gotta be 50 to 75 trucks in that junkyard in Greer. And every single one, whether it was the small one, which resembles this but smaller, or the big one, every single one had the plug entering from the top. Every one. And I looked at every single one. The ones that had the engines. Some of them were missing the accessory drive. Sometimes the accessory drive is lying on the ground. It's really weird. So I didn't buy anything else, but what I did do is I tried the plug once I got here. I figured I could just leave this alternator on. It is working, but look at this. That's bearing dust or something. That's just, it's old. It's got 209,000 miles. And how long can it last? Bearing sounds good. This one actually looks like it has a smaller, thinner pulley. When you buy these Chinese alternators for your older GM cars, your restorations from the 60s and 70s, they come with this giant machined pulley, whereas the old GM pulley was actually stamped steel welded together for the V-belt. So this is a remanufactured in Mexico, or maybe it's a new one. I don't know. What I do know is this one has markings on the back. And the markings say Bosch. Maybe it's a model 130, maybe it's 130 millimeters. That's how they mark these things. It's got all kinds of codes here. 6004, blah, 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 blah. Made in Mexico, 904, GM, Bosch, 130. And this one has nothing. I already looked. There's nothing except the CarQuest number, which, due to it being in the weather with the hood open, all I can read is remanufactured in Mexico, 217-01303. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is install it. I backed off these steel shimmy things a little bit so you can get this thing in the hole. And then we're going to move on to the idlers. There's an idler tensioner. Here's my original one. Made in Hey-Ho on Canada. Made in Canada. And it's got a little corrosion on it. So the one that I got in the junkyard up further into the mountains is here. And it's also made in Canada. And I don't know why it is, but a lot of Canadians watch my channel. I'm a Canadian. Hey. Why? Yes, sure, yeah. God, it's just... So I'm going to put this one on, but my idler, I know which one it is because it had all the dust on the back. My idler was noisy. Idler tensioner. And this one actually has some laser edged markings, made in Canada. I don't know if you can read that. This one is actually, let's see if it'll focus. Yep, made in Canada. And it could be the original one. No, it wasn't, because the original one, well, maybe. The original one, here's an idler that I got from the junk. No, this idler actually came off of, this is the smooth idler that rides on the back of the belt. This is the one that came off this Yukon. And it's got this stamped steel nut, if you can call it a nut, to hold this together as an assembly when it's being assembled at the factory. So this is an original one, maybe the original one. Maybe it was replaced at a GM dealer. So here's my original idler. And I'm going to try set the camera up here, just like that. And got some pretty birds. And when it was on the idler tensioner, you could hear it. Doesn't feel that bad, but it doesn't feel that bad. Here's another one that I got from the junkyard. How's this one sound? It's hard to tell because they're plastic. They don't spin much. They don't have a lot of weight. And here's another one that I got from the junkyard. Ooh, this one sounds nasty. You can hear that sand and grit. Now here's an idler that I got from the junkyard. It was the nicest sounding one that I could find with my limited 2 hours of time. This one feels nice and smooth. And last but not least, is the one that I took off this truck. I'm not sure where the microphone is, but the longer they spin, the more worn they are. And this one sounds gritty. So this one's definitely coming off. I'm going to choose the best one of the bunch of these idler tensioner grooved or ribbed pulleys. I'm going to fill it up with some Walmart $4.58 Atom or Atom lube. Atom's Working Smarter lube. I'm going to fill it up with some grease. And if you're wondering how to get this little seal off, you take your little Dollar Tree pocket knife or your girlfriend, mother's, neighbor's steak knife, and the thinner the edge, the better. This one is not that thin. And you gently prise right there, and you gouge it slightly, and they come off really easy. There's nothing holding this thing on. And I took off every one. Some get a little bit twanged and some don't. This one didn't get too damaged. Oh, those birdies are so happy. Just like me, 65 degrees. Who needs snowstorms of the Adirondacks? So you take off the seal, and you could take some Walmart brake clean when they have it in stock for $1.79. Sure beats $4.39 at the auto parts store, and even when they have buy one, get one free, it's still more than the price of the Walmart one. It's the same crap. I even watched Project Farm's video testing Amazon Basics oil. It's made by a big oil manufacturing company, relabeled Amazon, relabeled Walmart. Top of the line oil. Top of the line. They're full synthetic. It's top of the line. Did it beat Mobil 1, Red Line? I think Amsoil beat them all. Even when he cooked it and then dripped it down. I like watching his videos. Very mechanical and methodical. No sense of humor. He sticks right to business. Not like me, making jokes, lecturing you, giving you advice. He just tells you what he finds. Right to the point. Keeps it to the fact. You should watch his videos. Project Farm. Nick's Garage. Project Farm. What else do I watch? Not too much. Oh, Patrick Glenn Nichols Barn Finds. This guy looks up LS6 Chevelles, SS 396 Chevelles. I like them, but they're expensive. I like them as found. Restored cars? Nah. I like barn finds. Drive them the way I found them. Just put the occasional original part back on, like the original clips and things. And these vehicles, I don't know how they're going to last. This is what, a 2001. Look at this. Just like the Mercedes wiring harnesses. What are you supposed to do when all the plastic disintegrates from the heat? So, I'm going to grease one of these, the best one of the bunch. Made in Canada, made in Canada. And this one is not made in Canada. Nope, this one's not made in Canada. And this one is made in Canada. Make lots of bearings in Canada. And this one here, I'm just going to keep it as a spare. I'm not even going to bother disassembling it because it's already too noisy. So that's the scoop. I've got a spare junkyard starter that was literally lying in the mud. Oh, air conditioner. I said it was done with the idlers, but I'm not. Here's the air conditioner idler tensioner, which is way down there. And I already removed the belt, and I spun it. It sounds good. I'm not going to remove it. It's not that hard to remove. The bolts are easy to get to, and it's easy to put back together. But this one sounds good. I got a spare. Nice and smooth, even though the insides are probably goopy. And I've got to get some throttle body cleaner. Not brake clean and not carburetor cleaner, but throttle body cleaner, because my friends advised me that there is a special coating, much like the enamel on your teeth, that you don't want to rub off, so this thing will work more smoothly. And you don't want to take a file. You want to take a rag, spray it with... I hear the gas pedal moving. Not drive-by-wire. It's funny because the diesel Suburban went to drive-by-wire in '94. This thing, 2001, 7 years later, still has a throttle pedal. You can hear the throttle pedal. So you got to wipe that with a rag that you spray with throttle body cleaner. And speaking of... Speaking of electronic drive-by-wire throttles, that 95 that I stripped at the junkyard had a drive-by-wire that I took off, and they charged me $10 for it. And go on eBay and see how much they are. So I've got a spare, which is going to go in the white Suburban that I drove back from Phoenix that the X blew the engine in. Thank you very much. 3 10mm bolts, snip the wire, and you've got a drive-by-wire gas pedal. And all kinds of other goodies that I took off that truck. My old smashed bumper, and the diesel bumper, and a water pump that was lying on the ground. And the fuel filter assembly, I sent one to Spike Punk, now I have a spare. Chirp, 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 you are a happy bird. And probably mating season. Either that or he just won the lottery, he got his income tax refund back. Got an idler tensioner, I forget what it was for. I think it was a 350 Vortec throttle body injector, or maybe it was a tune port. Lots of junk in the back of the Mercedes. I got a master cylinder for my Jeep Liberty. I got some tower clamps off a 73 El Camino. Someone loosened them properly and just left them there. And there they are. All kinds of little nuts and bolts. Starter reinforcement bracket for a 6.5. This one's easy to make out of a piece of angle iron. The 6.2 one is a little bit more complicated. And I bought a couple of similar ones from a Corvette. And I had one of the originals and I misplaced them in my cluttered shop. Cluttered ain't the word for it. And I have the brackets for the next project after I get done working on the Yukon. These are tow bar adapters that I made to tow the S10, and that is going to happen next. So thanks for watching. Go watch Patrick Glenn Nichols discovering SS Chevelles and Nick's Garage. I like watching him, and we'll see you when I make the next video, which won't be long because I've got lots of junk to show you. Maybe I'll do some digging with my backhoe.